It's Your Call, recognized for broadcasting excellence with an Emmy Award for Outstanding Talk Program. It's Your Call with Lynn Doyle starts now.
When people get enough sleep, they actually learn better. When people get enough sleep, they have a greater tendency to not gain weight. When people get enough sleep, their memories are better. They've done experiments where they sort of put people as cavemen. They would have them sleep in a nice artificial environment from, say, 8:30 to 6:30. They didn't have to sleep the whole time. Two things came out of the experiment. One, people had a lot of mystical experiences. They started thinking about their dreams and really enjoying their dreams. Two, a whole bunch of people didn't want the experiment to stop. The reason is they said they never knew what it was to feel alert. We're engaging in this huge experiment in this country where we're trying to push ourselves to the wall and sleep as little as we can.
And that was the part that I was really fascinated by when reading the book, the whole idea of a society functioning basically sleep deprived. I mean, most of us would admit that we don't get as much sleep as our body tells us to, but time constraints say, well, I can only sleep so long. I need to get up, I need to get moving, I need to get to work, I need to exercise, I need to get the kids off. There's all these other outside elements that keep us from getting enough sleep.
Right, but I want people to use their cycles. And what's really wild is that sometimes when people are able to protect their sleep a bit more, they find they're a lot more efficient on the job. They're a lot more efficient with the kids because they're more alert.
So how do you protect your sleep?
You have to give it a certain amount of time.
How does that all tie in with sex and romance and our love life?
I think that Americans tend to have sex at times when they're just completely exhausted. Most people have sex right before they go to bed.
Either that or not have it at all.
Well,
your choices are
that's the real answer.
Or no.
Right, and it's a real pity. It's a real pity. Americans talk about sex, dream about sex, think about sex a great deal more than they engage in it. And this is not what this country is all about. I think it's best for people when they can have sex when they're alert. And very often, early evening.
It's a good plan.
A lot of people don't think of it that way. A lot of people think of sex as something that helps them sleep. And the weird part is that whenever they do that in laboratory studies, it doesn't work. Now, maybe it's because of how they do the studies, but
maybe it's who's having sex with whom.
Yeah, that has a big impact
That could have
too.
a big impact on it.
Right, but what it really comes down to is to enjoy sex. You want to have it as a time with your partner where you're sort of alert. And what a lot of people do is they end up using weekend mornings because that's the time where they can sort of close the door and the kids don't have to come in and they can do things. Sunday afternoons can be very pleasant that way. There are different impacts on pregnancy in terms of when you time having sex. But the really interesting thing is something called REM sex. Because it turns out that sleep is this extraordinary series of events. It's not one thing. If we could remember what we did in sleep, we would probably feel like we were living several different lives. But one of the parts of sleep is called rapid eye movement sleep or REM sleep. That's when we usually have our really interesting dreams. That's when testosterone peaks. And for a lot of men who think that they're having trouble, if you can just get them at the last REM period, if you can just wake them up maybe 30, 40 minutes earlier than they usually do, you can sometimes have a very dreamy,
kind of a
very
sneak
pleasant
attack. Is that what you're advocating?
It depends on who's doing the attack. I find that the men don't seem to mind as much as the women do. Now, why that is, I can't tell you. But in general, if you can try that out, a lot of people find that it's a completely different kind of sexual experience.
Okay. Are you guys taking notes on this? If not, get the book. It's called The Body Clock Advantage. The author is Dr. Matthew Edlund.